The story I want to tell you today comes from a commitment I made to an amazing man who, for me, is up there with Gandhi. Um, he is the managing director of an NGO called Seed Madagascar. It used to be known as Azafadi. And I worked for them for 5 years before becoming a trustee on their board of advisors. And I made a commitment to him last week that I would share a fundraising campaign that they were putting out. And I didn't get to it in time. And they went ahead and they got the funding, and they got matched funding as well for some incredible environmental and nutritional work that they're doing in Madagascar, which is one of the poorest countries on the planet. But the story I want to tell you today is about an extraordinary woman who saw a possibility and didn't wait for someone else to do it, but decided to do it herself. So let me take you back a bit. I had just got kicked out of Australia. I've been living there for 5 years on a de facto marriage visa. The relationship ended badly. I never quite got my residency, and I found myself back in England unexpectedly, and decided to go to an online university, get a degree so that I could get back to Australia again under my own steam as quickly as possible. And I studied English and creative writing and international development. And I would regularly buy The Big Issue. And in the back of that, there were always these incredible adverts for travel across Africa, live off what you find, you'll be in the back of a truck and a tent. And I was looking through The Big Issue again for one of these, when I saw an advert for a charity in Madagascar running 3-month programs to go and volunteer with them. And I looked at what they did, and I picked up the phone and got through to Mark Jacobs, who's the managing director. And for one thing, I was shocked that I could actually speak to the MD of a charity just like that, and he would give me his time. But if you ever meet Mark, you'll discover that he has all the time in the world for having conversations with people. He's a remarkable man. And I said, I've seen your advert, but I want more. I want to do more. What I would really like to do is emergency aid relief, Médecins Sans Frontières, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not an engineer, but I want to do useful work. And he said, oh, we're not really emergency relief. We do long-term, sustainable capacity building. Tell me about yourself. And I told him about this degree that I had done. And he said, English, international development, you could probably help with fundraising. You could probably help with our proposals. And I went, yeah, I could absolutely do that. I had never written a proposal. I had never read a proposal. I didn't even really know what a fundraising proposal was. I said, yes, absolutely, I can do that for sure. And he said, well, I can't get you out to Madagascar right away. We rely heavily on our volunteers, and we need to know there's a real genuine commitment there. Give me a year of your time. Volunteer in London instead, 2 days a week for a year. And if you do that, and if it fits, then I'll find a way to get you out there. And I said, yes. It was not what I had in mind at all, but it felt right. So for a year, I would travel up to their office in London. And let me tell you, I think I should have had pepper spray because they did not have fancy offices. I had to go through a dodgy old part of London to get there. And it was incredible to see this group of just a handful of volunteers and the MD crammed into a tiny office, computer cables everywhere. And I thought, yeah, you can see that they're not spending their money on fancy central London offices. This is a charity that really puts its money where it's meant to go. And I loved that about them. And after a year, I managed to get a volunteer position in Madagascar. And over time, I built up a project development team, and I trained them, and we developed a project development department. And I would help with recruitment of local staff and sit on interviews. And I would do the budgets with the head of finance. So I saw everything. I saw all the money that went into that organization and everything that went out. I saw how they recruited people from the local villages, how they trained them, how they worked with them and built their capacity, how they took a long-term approach. And it was everything that in my heart I had hoped a charity would be: completely ethical, full of authenticity, full of passionate people. And one day, this woman walks into the office. She had been out there in one of the conservation research volunteer programs. And she walks in and says, this village where we're doing conservation research, and it was a couple of hours up the coast along a non-road, dried out riverbed, fishing village, extraordinarily poor. And the women there would grow reeds and make fishing baskets that their husbands would then take out and catch fish and lobsters in boats that may or may not have holes in, usually without life vests, not being able to swim. You can imagine the risks and the level of hand-to-mouth survival that was involved. And she said, in that village, those women have no source of income other than what their husbands earn from catching, if they catch anything at all. She said, I teach embroidery. I can teach those women to embroider. I can help them sell their products so that they earn their own money and they're not reliant on their husbands, so that when there's a storm and they can't go out fishing, or when there's a no fish time when the lobsters are having babies, that they've still got a source of income, they can still feed their children. And we listened to her, the director and I, and said, this sounds lovely, but we're at capacity. There's no way we can do this for you. If you want to do this, you go, write up the project. I'll help you with all of the logistical stuff and the budget writing, but you do this and you get it funded. If you do that, we'll help you run it. You can run it with us, but we don't have capacity to do this ourselves right now. And she went out of the office, and the director and I looked at each other and went, well, it was a nice idea. Pretty confident that she would go back and be consumed by her normal life in England and forget all about it. Well, she didn't. She wrote the proposal, she got it funded, and she came back for what was meant to be a 1-year startup project to work with a handful of women in the village of St. Luce to teach them embroidery and see if it could become a sustainable livelihoods project. That was back in 2012. That cooperative now has over 100 women. From a group of 12, it now has over 100 women. Since 2000 and, I want to get my dates here right, certainly for the last 4 years at least, maybe longer, that cooperative of women has been independent from the charity. The handicrafts that they make are so beautiful and are sold in more than 15 countries around the world. And the income they make from that has been sustainable to the point where the charity could pull out and say, you've got this. We'll help you get your products to different places around the world. We'll help you sell them the international market, but you get the money. You figure out what you're going to do with it. You keep this project going. And for the last 4 years, they've been running independently, more than 100 women. They've had to learn how to read. They've had to learn how to write. They've had to learn how to do basic arithmetic. They had none of this. Absolutely nothing. They've had to learn how to do all of that alongside making their handicrafts, alongside creating a business. It's astonishing. And all because that one woman said, I know how to do something. I can help. And she didn't wait for someone else to do it for her. She didn't say, well, terrible state of the world. What a shame. Someone should really do something about that. She said, there's one tiny thing that I know how to do, and it's teach embroidery. And that's what she did. So the reason I'm telling you this story is twofold. One, because I'm honoring my commitment to Mark Jacobs, who is an angel among men, as far as I'm concerned, that I would share the story of Stitch St. Luce, that it might inspire other people. And two, I want you to consider why this story was meant for you. What are you going to do, having heard this story? One thing you might do is buy one of the wristbands. They make beautiful embroidered wristbands from the Stitch St. Luce shop online. You might give it to a family member, a daughter, a sister, and tell them the story of the woman who made it. They'll find it online. Show them the picture of the woman who made it. Explain to them how these women have gone from being utterly dependent on their husbands, who are completely dependent on a highly, highly dangerous and unsustainable livelihood, to being in control of their own finances, and that bracelet symbolizes that. You might look at Seed Madagascar and go, I've got a skill that could help there. I can do something towards that. It won't fix everything, but there's that one tiny thing that I know how to do. Pick up the phone, call Mark Jacobs, have a conversation with him. But no, you will be asked for commitment. You will be asked for integrity. And in return, you'll get more than you could possibly imagine back. You might look at that from an international perspective and go, I could go to Madagascar. I could get involved for 3 months on the ground with one of their volunteer projects. I could teach English. I could do conservation research. There might be something there for you. Or maybe it's the message that look for an opportunity and go for it. And don't wait for someone else to do it for you. Be the person who does it. Be the person who in a few years to come, someone else will be telling a story about and go, you know what? There was no reason she had to do that. She had a perfectly full life as it was, but look at the difference she made. So there will be something in this story for you to take away and do something with. And that's what I'd like you to consider. What are you taking away from this? Thank you.